Hi, welcome to another video. So Grok 4.5 just launched, and on paper it seems that this might be a model that is actually a frontier model in coding, taking punches from not just Opus or Sonnet, but Fable and GPT-5.6. Grok 4.5 is trained in collaboration with Cursor because Cursor has been bought by xAI. So this is basically their Composer 5 and Grok coming together. Grok has always been a kinda interesting model because it is relatively uncensored while being kinda wonky in agentic tasks. This one seems to actually fix it. Let's talk about what this model actually is. So, Grok 4.5 was released on July 8th to developers through Grok Build, Cursor, and the API, and it's rolling out publicly on grok.com and the X app as I'm making this video. It comes with a 500K token context window, which is actually smaller than the 1 million context that Grok 4.3 had, but honestly, 500K is more than enough for most coding tasks. It supports vision, tool calling, structured outputs, extended reasoning, and web search. So it's a full agentic model, not just a chat model. Now, let's talk about the pricing, because this is where it gets interesting. The API is priced at $2 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens. Cached input is just 50 cents per million, which is a 75% discount. If you go above 200K tokens of context, the pricing doubles to $4 input and $12 output, but most of your requests won't ever touch that. For context, Fable 5 is $10 per million input and $50 per million output. So we're talking about a model that's roughly 5 to 8 times cheaper than the top of the chart. Elon is literally pitching this as an Opus class model, but faster, more token efficient, and lower cost. My only complaint on the pricing is that doubling above 200K. Going from 200K to 500K is not that much extra context, and charging double on output for it feels like a bit of a reach to me. But most of your tasks won't ever hit that anyway. Also, if you're planning to use it through Cursor, their subscription plans include a good chunk of Grok 4.5 usage with double usage for the first week, and there's currently a 50% discount on the model through tools like Cursor. So this is a really good time to try it. Now, let me tell you a few things I dug up about this model that most coverage is completely missing. First, this is not a fine-tune of the older Grok models. The previous Grok models were around 500 billion parameters, and this one is a 1.5 trillion parameter mixture of experts model. So this is a full new pre-training run from scratch, done on tens of thousands of NVIDIA's brand new GB300 GPUs. And they clearly spent a lot of effort on data curation this time, with heavy filtering, deduplication, and quality scoring on the training mix. Second, the Cursor acquisition is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. The training included trillions of tokens of Cursor data, which is basically real developers and real agents interacting with real code bases. On top of that, they ran RL on hundreds of thousands of multi-step software engineering tasks with rollouts that can run for hours. That's exactly why the agentic behavior feels so different from the older Groks, which were always kind of wonky at this stuff. There's also a funny detail that I noticed in the fine print. They did not publish a Cursor bench score for this model. And the reason is that an earlier snapshot of Cursor's own codebase accidentally ended up in the training data, which taints that benchmark for Grok. To their credit, they disclosed this themselves instead of quietly advertising an inflated score, so respect for the transparency there. On the official benchmarks, it lands third on deep sway behind only Fable 5 and GPT-5.5, while beating Opus 4.8. On Terminal Bench, it scores 83.3, which is basically tied with GPT 5.5 at 83.4 and just behind Fable 5 at 84.3. So, on paper, this thing is fighting in the frontier weight class. It's also fast. It runs at around 80 tokens per second, and it uses way fewer tokens than the competition, which I'll come back to, because that's honestly the craziest part of this whole release. Artificial Analysis has already ranked it number 4 out of 168 models on their intelligence index with a score of 54, which is basically frontier territory at budget pricing. But you know how it goes on this channel. Benchmarks are one thing, and my tests are another. So let's put it through my 7 questions and see if this comeback is actually real. Each question is scored out of 10, and the maximum score is 70. Let's get right into it. The first question is the elevator simulation. The model needs to build a simulation in HTML, CSS, and JS, or you can spawn people on different levels. There are 3 elevators. Each elevator can only take one person, and the people left behind should catch the next one. Each person also has a random destination floor with a tooltip on hover. Here's what it generated. So, the elevators are moving and the people are spawning on the levels, which is good. But the one person per elevator logic is not really being followed properly, and the animations are kind of janky. The tooltip works though. It's a working simulation, but it's not clean, so I'll give this a 5 out of 10. For comparison, Opus 4.8 got a full 10 on this one, and Fable 5 got a 9, so Grok is behind the top dogs here. The second question is the 3JS contact lens case. It should be a 3D model of a contact lens case with pronounced L and R markings on the caps, and you should be able to click on the caps to open them up. And here's the output. The case is actually recognizable. The L and R are there, and clicking the caps does open them up, although the opening animation is a bit weird and the geometry is slightly off. Believe it or not, this is actually one of the better attempts at this question. Most models completely butcher this one. I'll give it a 6 out of 10, which puts it above almost everything except Fable 5, which got a 10, and Opus 4.8, which got a 7. The third question is the 3JS folding table. There should be a slider, and as you drag it to the right, the table unfolds, and to the left, it folds. It should be seamlessly animated and properly 3D. Here's the result. So, the table is there, and the slider does fold and unfold it. But the animation is not really seamless. The legs kind of snap into place instead of smoothly rotating. It gets the concept but not the polish, so this is a 5 out of 10. Not bad, but Sonnet 5 and GLM 5.2 both got a 9 on this one, so there's clearly room for improvement. The fourth question is the SVG of a panda eating a burger. And here's the panda. So the panda is recognizable, which is already a win for an SVG test, but the burger looks more like a stack of pancakes, and the eating part is questionable at best. It's mid. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Nothing special here. Most models hover around 5 to 6 on this one. Now, the fifth question is the bow and arrow simulator game. It should have 4 targets, and hitting the targets in the lowest time should put you on the leaderboard. And this one, wow, this is actually really good. The bow mechanics work, the arrow physics feel natural, all 4 targets are there, the timer works, and the leaderboard actually updates properly. I mean, it works well. Really well. This is a full 10 out of 10. Only Opus 4.8 and Opus 4.7 also got a perfect score here. Chef's kiss. The sixth question is the hard math one. It's a combinatorics problem about counting permutations of ordered pairs with some strict adjacency conditions. The answer should be 2460. This is the question that separates the frontier models from the pretenders. GPT-5.5, Opus 4.7, and Gemini 3.5 Flash all got a 0 on this one. And here's its answer. 2460. That is exactly correct. So this is a full 10 out of 10. Grok 4.5 just joined the club that only Opus 4.8, Fable 5, GLM 5.2, and the top GPT 5.6 variants are in. This is quite great to see. And the last question is the agentic one, and it's brutal. The model has to generate a dataset of facts about pandas, then fine-tune a Gemma 2B model on that dataset, all locally, all on its own, and then give me a web UI that generates a panda fact on every refresh. No hand-holding, no files provided. It has to do everything itself. So, it started by generating the dataset. Then it set up the training script. It went ahead and ran a ton of commands. And the fine-tuning kicked off and completed on its own. Now, if we open the web UI and refresh, there's a panda fact. Refresh again, another panda fact. It all runs locally, and it did the entire pipeline on its own. This is a full 10 out of 10. This is the kind of agentic capability that older Grok models could only dream of. This is pretty amazing, to be honest. So, this is the final chart. And Grok 4.5 lands at 51 out of 70, which is 72.86%. That puts it in 5th place overall, behind Fable 5 at 88.57%, Opus 4.8 at 87.43%, and GPT 5.6 Sol at 78.57%. But here's the thing. It's ahead of Sonnet 5 and Opus 4.7, which both sit at 55.71%. It's ahead of every GPT 5.6 variant except Sol, and it's miles ahead of where Grok used to be. If you've been on this channel for a while, you know that Grok models used to sit near the bottom of my charts. They were wonky. They were unreliable in agentic tasks, and I've been pretty harsh on them. This is a genuine comeback. Going from bottom tier to top 5 in one release is crazy. And now factor in the price. $2 input and $6 output per $1 million tokens. The models above it on this chart cost multiple times more. You're getting roughly 85% of Opus 4.8's performance at a fraction of the cost. If you ask me, that makes Grok 4.5 one of the best value models you can use right now, especially for agentic coding, where those output tokens add up fast. The cursor collaboration clearly paid off. The agentic stuff, the long horizon tasks, the tool calling, that's where this model shines. The 3D and visual stuff still needs polish in my tests, although I'll say it has more 3D taste than any previous Grok model by a mile. The hard reasoning and autonomy are legit frontier level. Now, before I wrap up, let me give you a few more observations from my testing and from digging through the numbers, because these are the things that actually matter for daily use. The token efficiency is the real story of this model. If you look at the token usage on the coding evals, Fable 5 burns around 7 million tokens per task, and Opus 4.8 burns around 9 million. Grok 4.5 gets its scores with only around 2 million tokens per task. In actual money, that works out to around 31 cents per task for Grok versus around $2.75 for Fable for the same work. So, the sticker price is cheap, and it uses way fewer tokens on top of that. Those two things stack, and the result is a cost advantage that no one else in this performance tier can touch right now. This also basically kills the GLM 5.2 value story, if you ask me. GLM scored higher on my chart, but it's a token-hungry model, and it ends up costing around 37 cents per task, while Grok gets you 90% of the way there, cheaper and faster. I've been recommending GLM as the budget pick for a while, but honestly, this changes the math. Another thing I noticed is how well it handles long, messy conversations. I threw multiple asks at it in single messages, referenced stuff from way earlier in the chat, and it never lost the plot or got fixated on stale context. A lot of models, even good ones, fall apart in exactly this situation. This one just keeps up. It's very pleasant to work with. But it's not all perfect, so let me give you the downsides too. First, it overthinks. On trick questions and puzzle-style tasks, it burns really long reasoning chains trying to find the catch, averaging over 2,000 reasoning tokens per response on those. So, on that kind of work, it's slower and pricier than you'd expect, and it still doesn't score at the top. Second, and this is the biggest gap, it's not an orchestrator. The new generation of models like Fable 5 and GPT-5.6 can step up a level, spin up sub-agents, break big work into chunks, and manage the whole thing. Grok 4.5 doesn't really have that muscle yet. When I pushed it to delegate work, it wasn't smart about how it split things up, and it would sometimes get stuck when a process it started just hung there. So, the way I'd put it is this. Grok 4.5 is the best possible version of the previous generation of models, rather than a true member of the new generation that Fable and GPT-5.6 belong to. But even that is a massive achievement, because 6 months ago, Grok wasn't even part of this conversation. They went from reselling GPUs to genuinely scaring Anthropic and OpenAI in one release. And more competition means faster, cheaper, and smarter models for all of us. Overall, this is a crazy good model at a crazy good price, and I did not expect to be saying that about Grok. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, consider donating through the Super Thanks option or becoming a member by clicking the Join button. Also, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.